You're a faunus? Ilya glances to Weiss. Weiss shakes her head. Why didn't you tell us? Now's not the time for this. Yang, Vernal, and Nora are pulling themselves up from the floor. A horrid crunching sound fills the room, and Yang looks over her shoulder to see Mercury, still hanging from the gears above. The gears are turning and crushing one of his metal legs. Blue sparks fly from his leg as it gets destroyed. Yang growls and starts to run towards him, when suddenly Cinder comes launching back up from the hole in the ground and high kicks Yang in the side of the head. Nora roars and starts to spin, her large hammer flying around her like an Olympic athlete. Weiss slams her sword tip into the ground and ice shoots out and covers the ground in front of her. Nora slips on the ice and tumbles into Vernal, who grabs hold of her. Nora, pay attention! Well, why don't you do something to help us, Vernal? Vernal's eyes narrow and she looks back to the others. Team Posey are all lined up, weapons drawn, stern expressions on their faces. Vernal looks back over and sees Yang stumbling to her feet, holding her wounded head in one hand and trying to reach out to Mercury with her other one. Mercury is trying to crunch up, slamming the side of his leg to try to detach the one that's being destroyed. Vernal's eyes narrow and she shares a look with Nora. The two girls nod to each other and Vernal holds out a hand. Nora grabs it and Vernal takes a deep breath and closes her eyes. Electricity suddenly surges into Nora from Vernal, and Nora screams, full of energy and excitement. Team Posey takes a nervous step backwards. What's with these people and the lightning? Weiss turns to Penny. Well, it shouldn't be a problem for you, right? Penny looks to Weiss and the two share a look. It's your semblance, right? That's what you did earlier? Penny looks a little uncertain, but before she can speak, Nora and Vernal come charging towards them. The lightning from them lighting up the room blindingly pink. Penny rushes towards them and raises her arms. Nora swings her hammer while Vernal swings her blades. Penny slides to one knee to dodge their attacks, then leaps forward and grabs each girl around the waist with one arm each. Nora and Vernal fall backwards as if hit by something incredibly strong, and Penny runs forward with them in her arms, charging until she slams them into the broken elevator door. Nora's eyes roll back and she falls to the floor, unconscious. Vernal grabs Penny by the hair and growls, yanking her off and wrestling with Penny to push the stronger girl back. Ilya taps Cinder's shoulder and points. They turn to Mercury as he falls to the ground on his back with a thud, groaning in frustration as he tries to pull himself up into a sitting position, one of his legs still caught in the gears, fully crushed like a can of soda. Yang helps pull him up and then turns to the others. Her eyes are red and she roars angrily. Cinder and Ilya dash forward, their blades crisscrossing in air as they speed towards Yang. Yang dips under their swords to avoid their strikes and throws a hefty punch, but Ilya seemingly vanishes in front of her before her hit can land. Weiss hears Penny yell and turns her attention back to Penny and Vernal. Weiss readies her rapier and a white glyph pops up underneath her, and with a sparkle of energy, she goes flying towards them at top speeds. As Weiss twirls, her rapier glows with red energy from her dust. As she quickly approaches Vernal, time slows down for us. Weiss turns, ready to hit, and as she gets within range of Vernal, for a split second, Vernal's eyes start to glow with light green flames. Weiss's eyes widen, but then time continues at normal speed, and with a dazzling flash, her rapier slashes across Vernal's torso. She gets sent flying backwards and crashes into an unconscious pile behind Yang and Mercury. Mercury tries to drag himself towards Vernal, while Yang continues to fight Cinder and Ilya. With a blazing hot haymaker, she finally lands a hit on Ilya, who is sent flying into Cinder, and the two girls stumble to right themselves. Weiss raises her rapier, but it clicks sadly. Weiss gasps as she realizes all of her dust vials are empty. Yang stomps and an explosion of yellow flames erupt from her, and she flies towards them like a meteor. Weiss holds up her rapier like a shield, and Penny's swords scramble to circle the two of them. As Yang lands, her fist flies towards Weiss and Penny. Suddenly, she stops. The flames extinguish almost instantly. Yang is stuck. Frozen, like time itself has stopped for her. A very soft green glow emanates from her body. Weiss and Penny stare at her, confused, when suddenly a voice comes up from behind them. Well now, that was close, wasn't it? The two girls turn to look behind them. Standing in the doorway of the destroyed elevator is Ozpin. His cane glows slightly, just like the color surrounding Yang's frozen body. Weiss turns to look around. The other three bandits, even the unconscious ones, also have that same frozen aura surrounding them. Cinder and Ilya pull themselves up to their feet, and everyone looks around Ozpin's destroyed office. So ladies, I think you have a bit of explaining to do. We cut to Jean and Neo, now standing shoulder to shoulder, holding their shields up to defend themselves from Talk. Melanie and Milsha have started to linger behind Talk, looking at each other uncertainly. We can't attack Team Orange, right? Melanie shakes her head, unsure of what to do. Talk, however, is laughing as her dual blades push Jean and Neo backwards. The two start walking back down a pier, and Jean glances behind him, realizing they're close to the water's edge. Nearby, Oscar is running, trying to dodge Torchwick's barrage of loud, flare-like bullets as they whiz around him. Hazel walks through the bullet fire, unfazed by anything that hits him, and Oscar tries to run. Before he can, however, Hazel grabs hold of his jacket and pulls him closer. Let me go! You've already made a mistake coming here, boy. Torchwick glances over to the others by the pier. Talk! Hurry up with those two! We only have a few minutes left until the security cameras turn back on. And you two, he points to the Malachite twins. If you're just gonna stand around, get as much dust as you can onto the ship. Now, hurry! As the two girls run past him to grab loose dust vials rolling around, Torchwick shakes his head. And where the heck did Kitty Cat go? Oscar pathetically tries to punch at Hazel's arm to get him to let go, but it's no use. Hazel starts to walk over to the pier himself and dangles Oscar over the water. Jean and Neo huddle closer together, trying to hold their ground against Talk, who's laughing maniacally as she continues to slam her swords into their shields. Behind them all, Blake and Ruby peek out from behind a storage container. Sun, Melanie, and Milsha are grabbing more dust vials and boxes and are trying to drag them up onto the ship. Ruby points at Torchwick. You see all that dust around him? You thinking what I'm thinking? Can you make the shot? Ruby smiles and nods, holding Crescent Rose in gun mode proudly. Blake glances over and nods back. I'll get my team out of the way. You better not go back on your word. Trust me. They share one last look, then Blake holds out a hand and Ruby shakes it firmly. Blake then quickly darts off behind more storage containers, and Ruby kneels down, raising Crescent Rose and peering down the sight. Sun, Melanie, and Milsha are trudging onto the ramp of the ship when they hear Blake go, "Psst." They look over and see her behind a storage container. She waves for them to follow her. Sun looks over his shoulder at the others. Torchwick is yelling at Hazel and Talk, who are still pushing the rest of Team Orange towards the water. Sun motions towards them and shrugs, a way of asking, what about them? Blake shakes her head, then waves them back over again. Sun drops the box he was holding, and Melanie and Milsha quickly jump off the ramp. The three run up to Blake, and she motions for them to follow. Team Boom disappear as they slip into the darkness of the night. Oscar, still punching at Hazel's arm, suddenly stops, noticing something. Past Hazel's stern expression, he can barely see Ruby, readying Crescent Rose. He looks over to Torchwick, then to Hazel, then gives him a stern glare. Finally give up? Oscar turns to Jean and Neo. The two look over to him, and he slightly nods and motions towards the water behind them. Neo looks uncertain, and Jean nods back. Jean grabs hold of Neo's hand, and the two jump backwards into the water together. Oscar turns back to Hazel, who scoffs and throws Oscar in after his teammates. Pathetic to give up so easily. They're just dumb kids, right? They're lucky we didn't kill them, I say. Will you two idiots stop messing around and hurry this operation up? Am I the only one who cares about our deadline? Tuck blows a raspberry and waves her hands. Oh, come off it. The kids are doing the grunt work already, right? Lighten up. Hazel stops and glances back to the water, where he can barely see Oscar treading water just under the surface. Hazel looks over. Torchwick and Talk are arguing with each other. He notices the ship, the box Sun dropped sliding pathetically to the ground off the ramp. Hazel's eyes narrow and he looks around, realizing he's missing something. He barely notices a slight shine in the moonlight reflecting off of Ruby's muzzle. His eyes widen as realization dawns on him. Wait, get out of... Before he can finish his sentence, Ruby's bullet echoes around the docks and perfectly sparks into one of the fire dust vials right by Torchwick's feet. The dust explodes, and as it does, it sets off a chain reaction of all the other dust vials around them to explode in an elemental cacophony as well. Treading below the water, safe from the debris of the explosions, Jean, Neo, and Oscar all grab onto each other, watching as the world lights up above the surface of the water. Ruby dips back behind the storage unit and covers her ears from the massive noise all around her. Once it all quiets down, she looks back out from her hiding spot, just as the rest of Team Orange surface for air. The docks are covered in ashes, ice, rocks, and other various blasted elements. Torchwick lays unconscious. Hazel, however, is down on his hands and knees, still awake, and Talk is still standing, a golden glow surrounding her. The blast seemingly did nothing to her. Ruby squeaks in fear as Hazel looks up towards her direction. He slowly drags himself back to his feet. Rotten brats. He growls in a low tone. He breathes heavily as he starts to stomp towards Ruby. Ruby holds up Crescent Rose and fires a shot. The bullet hits his shoulder and he stumbles slightly, but doesn't slow down. Ruby gasps nervously when suddenly a purple glow illuminates around some of the stones and debris around Hazel. They levitate and fly at him, wrapping around his wrists and sending him flying backwards and landing heavily on his back. His arms pinned to the ground, leaving him immobile. Suddenly, his hair is blasted backwards, and Ruby looks up in time to see Talk in the pilot's seat of the airship. Ruby uses her semblance to try to rush towards it, but it makes it too high up, too quickly. Ruby can barely see Talk, snarling in anger just before the airship flies away. Torchwick starts to stir awake, but with a flash, there's suddenly a blade pointed at his face. He looks up, and we see Summer Rose smiling down at him. Better stay where you are. You two are under arrest. Behind her, we watch as Glinda approaches Hazel, her riding crop glowing purple like the debris she manipulated to hold him down. Hazel starts to growl, but she whips her riding crop like a wand and more debris covers up his mouth. Mom! Ruby yells out happily and runs over to meet up with her mother. Summer looks startled to see her. What are you doing here? I should be asking you that. There was an explosion. Are you okay? Ruby turns to the pier. Port and Oobleck are helping to pull Jean, Neo, and Oscar out of the water. She turns back to Summer and smiles at her. It's a long story. As we see the teachers running around, arresting Torchwick and Hazel, we transition to a calmer moment, where Ruby, Oscar, and John and Neo are all sitting on crates. There's police cars now as the teachers pile the restrained villains into an armored vehicle. Neo smiles and punches Oscar playfully in the arm. Ow! What was that for? Neo points to him, then gestures to her, Jean, and Ruby. Jean speaks up to verbalize what she means. You chose us, over Ozpin. Oscar smiles at them all, then his eyes fall to the ground. I haven't really been a very good leader, have I? Honestly, Ruby should have been the leader. It comes so much more naturally to you. Ruby thinks for a second, then scoffs. It doesn't matter who's leader. What matters is that we're a team, and you showed up for us when we needed it. That's good enough for me. There's footsteps behind them, and they turn to see Team Boom approaching. They're no longer wearing their various masks or face coverings. Jean, Neo, and Oscar all stiffen, reaching for their weapons, but Blake waves a hand. Cool it, we come in peace. Right, Ruby? Trust? Right. Trust. Ruby smiles and the others calm down. Melanie shrugs to Jean and Neo. No hard feelings, right? Well, I wouldn't say no hard feelings. Sun hops onto the crate, sitting next to Neo. Lighten up, you guys weren't even supposed to be there. I'm sure Ruby will be able to explain all of this to us, right? Before Ruby can answer, Blake interrupts. Ruby also needs to explain some stuff to us too, right? Ruby nods to Blake, who nods back. Text me later. Come on, team, we have an important call to make. Sun gives Neo a fist bump before he and the rest of Team Boom walk away, and the others turn to Ruby. What did that mean? Well, I kind of made a deal with Blake to get them to stop helping Torchwick. She wants to know about these things called relics. As she says this, she glances nervously to Oscar, who looks startled. How do you guys know about that? Blake and Cardin were talking about it back in Foreverfall. There's a silence between the four of them, then Oscar stands up from the crate he was on. He looks around at each one, then nods. As he speaks, we see a montage of the other characters. Let's go back to the dorm. It's not safe to talk about these things in public. These are important secrets that only certain people are supposed to know about. But, according to Ozpin, word has been spreading about their existence across Remnant. We're not sure who's leaking the information, but it's more important now than ever to be cautious. Ozpin wouldn't want me telling you three this stuff, but I can't ask my team to trust me while I'm still keeping secrets from them. So, Neo, Jean, Ruby, I'm going to tell you the real story of the four maidens. Cardin is awake in the middle of the night in his hospital bed. He hears a noise, and two figures enter the room, Fennec and Corsic. Go away, beasts. I don't need a prayer right now. We're not here for prayer. We bring you a message from the Lady of the Moon herself. Cardan turns to them, shocked. You've seen her too? Yes, we are some of her closest advisors. She wishes you recover quickly, because she has an important mission for you. Absolutely. They say in just a few more weeks I can go back to classes. Actually, you don't need to attend school anymore. Instead, she wants you to oversee a different element of her plans. In your stead, she's planning on recruiting more members for her cause. Fennec holds up his scroll, and Cardan squints with his one good eye. It's CCT security footage of Adam, Tyrion, Yuma, and Trifa. They seem to be sneaking onto a plane in the cargo hold. Faunus, the White Fang again. Why is the Lady of the Moon insistent on working with these vile animals? Cardan glances over to Fennec and Corsic and his face drops. The two brothers look scarily amused. Now, so rude. And here we are, offering you the goddess's method of healing your wounds faster. What is that? Fennec and Corsic move, and out of the shadows of the night, a Seeker Grim approaches Cardan. It clicks as its tentacles squirm around him. Cardan squirms, and as it closes in on him, he lets out a fearful scream. Thank you so much for watching. As always, huge shout out to everyone who made fan art. I always really appreciate it so much. It's been amazing fan art that I did not expect. I didn't think anyone would care enough. So it's just so cool to see, and you're also creative and thoughtful, and I so appreciate it so much. I love seeing it. Links to all the fan art in the description below. Show them some love because they really deserve it. And now, shout out to my $10 patrons. You're all amazing. Andrew, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Noah Perkins, Sunny Shy, Genital War Thunder, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Isaiah, Scaring Crows, Not All That Evil, Messiah Complex, Jacob, Ben's Sketchbook, Rain, Omega Fighter, Trash, Wild Pilot, Josh, Twisty, Juan, Bunkin Duncan, Lycan99, Hoodie Angel, Ranger, Hutmut Butt, Cloudy Days, The Enigma, C1 Trooper, and Sean. So yeah, that was Volume 1 of RWBY Reversed Fates. I hope you enjoyed it. I had so much fun, and yes, there will be a Volume 2. I've already started working on it. I don't know how long it's going to take me to finish writing everything, but I'm going to get to it as soon as I can. I've had so much fun with this first volume. I cannot wait to tackle Volume 2. I have so many more big, fun ideas, and I'm so excited, especially for the dance. Oh my god. So yeah, I hope you had fun. I had a ton of fun. Let me know what you thought of this first volume. Let me know how you think I could improve things. I want this to be really good and cool and fun, and I want you all to enjoy it. So let me know what you liked. Let me know what you think I could improve on. I would really love to see it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.